Personal property. Personal property is very much allowed in the teachings of Islam. The Quran says, and don't eat each other's wealth unjustifiably. The wealth that belongs to me cannot be taken away by others. In actual fact, this is the very principle on the basis of which all economic guidance is provided by the Quran. That is, there are different ways people deprive others of their justifiable wealth, and all those ways have been prohibited. And this particular verse and others are stating the same fact. The Quran mentions the law of inheritance in Surah Nisa, the 4th surah, in verses 11 and 12. The Almighty has mentioned a formula on the basis of which the property wealth of a deceased is going to be distributed amongst his relatives. Now, when that distribution takes place, then what comes to an individual belongs to him. He is the legitimate owner of it. So the Quran itself legitimizes wealth, not just the one that the person has earned himself, but also the one that was earned by somebody else, and he or she happens to be the legal heir of the deceased. So personal property is not a problem as far as Islamic teachings are concerned. In fact, personal property is to be respected, and the right of ownership is to be honored. So much so that the Quran emphasizes very strongly that even if there are orphans who become the owners of the funds or the property of their fathers, and they cannot use those funds properly, judiciously. There are businesses, there could be factories, there could be agricultural fields. So the Almighty says, and don't give to the immature your wealth, which God has assigned to you for support, but provide for them from it and speak to them with kind words. In other words, even if there are orphans who are immature, who do not have the ability to take business decisions on their own, they shall still remain the owners of that wealth, that business. It should be taken over temporarily by some responsible people of the society. They should run the business on behalf of the orphans. If there need be, they can take some salary out of it. But the rest of it is going to be, the rest of the revenues of the business are going to be utilized for the welfare and betterment of the orphans. They will be fed through that wealth, through that earning. They shall be clothed, and their needs shall be met. And then the Quran goes on to say, later, if and when they mature and they become intelligent enough to be able to take decisions wisely, they should first be tested, and then their property, their businesses should be handed over to them. And the Quran warns that those who take away the wealth of the orphans because they see them weak, vulnerable, defenseless, they should know that they are taking in the fire of hell in their bellies. In other words, the Almighty assigns a lot of significance to the fact that property belongs to the individual, and if it belongs to him, then he or she is the legitimate owner of it, and the person cannot be deprived of it in a manner which is unfair, unjust, and therefore un-Islamic.